Well, hello, lovelies. So, obviously, you were watching my vlog and you saw the cookies that Simon was given by an ajushi slash harabuji. But I just, okay, so before going to Korea, and you lovelies know that I consume a lot of content from Korea, whether it be YouTube videos from, you know, variety shows or TV shows, reality shows, K-dramas, but I've also been watching a lot of videos from people who have traveled to Korea and what they experienced because I didn't want to travel and have this huge expectation of what a country might be without realizing the realities that I might come across as someone who is a foreigner and is quite obviously a foreigner. So I was not ignorant to the possibilities of what I could experience while I was traveling. I love Korea. I wouldn't be learning Korean if I didn't love the people and the language itself and the culture and the history. Um, but also growing up, and some of you lovelies might already know what my background is when it comes to beauty standards and like my problems. But so I grew up um obviously in Australia, but I'm half Filipino, and with that comes with a lot of struggle that I had growing up in terms of my self-worth, my beauty, my body dysmorphia, and also just my sense of self. Because I had a lot of comments from Filipino adults around me about my weight, about um, I would be prettier if I lost weight. Mind you, I was 10 when these comments, I think I was actually younger than 10, when these comments, I became aware or more aware of these sort of comments. So growing up constantly hearing that I would be better if, I would be prettier if, I would be more appealing to men if, um, really did affect me. And I am still in therapy for it to work on my own sense of self-worth and things like that that is constantly tied to my appearance and how I view myself and the obsession with uh, how I look 24/7, and not in terms of like I am constantly dressing up and trying to look a certain way. I just mean catching myself in the reflection and looking at myself and being like, oh, I don't like how this looks, or this looks like, oh, I didn't think that's what I would look like. Things like that. And people with disordered eating and mental health struggles to do with perception of self and body and just things like that would know how that feels to constantly pick yourself apart, no matter what. You know, I could just be sitting here and look at my thighs and be disappointed in myself. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of this going on, and I try to not project that to other people. When I'm, you might not have realized that I have this sort of deep rooted issue. And it is ingrained in Asian culture that you openly talk about people's weight and appearance and sometimes make fun of it or sometimes show concern or every single thing under the sun. But I had this fear before going to Korea that that would be something that random strangers is going to pick up about me and talk about, because I am someone who can't really fly under the radar because I am tall for a girl. I am 176 centimeters tall. So being that height, and also I know I am overweight for my size. So it's a struggle that I've been trying to work on for a long time, but I have a lot of health issues as well that has always hindered my weight loss. So being as tall as I am, I can never fly under the radar. I can't, blend in. And obviously, being completely looking non-Korean as well obviously doesn't help my case. But yeah, so it is something that has always made me stand out as well, just being taller. Being taller and also, having a bigger frame and weight and everything like that makes you stand out more. And I was not prepared for the staring and the comments that I could understand because they didn't realize I understand Korean. So whilst it was, for the most part, very much a positive experience, and it filled me up with um joy to hear, like when we were walking around Gyeongbokgung Palace. And so first off, the whole experience with getting hanbok in the first place, I am going to talk about in a separate video because that experience was low-key traumatizing. As someone who is bigger and taller, and the chaos that was even just renting a hanbok, oh my God, I feel like I feel like that's not talked about. So that was like a shocking experience, and that wasn't really to do with the culture. That was just I don't know. So yeah, so wearing hanbok and walking around with Simon and hearing some ajamas as we were walking past, and they were like, oh my, like they were like, aigu, oh yep, oh, like just to themselves, and they were like, to hear that was really confidence boosting, and I felt really good about myself. To hear them say that I was pretty, and mind you, they could have just been talking about the hanbok. It might not have even been me. Either way, that was really comforting, to wear someone else's traditional dress, and to hear positive comments like that made me feel really nice. But before that even happened, literally this being the second day and the first full day we were in Korea, I was not prepared mentally and uh, audibly, because we had just landed. We were still really tired. I was not on any sort of A game when it came to listening to Korean and understanding it at that stage when we had arrived. So, and plus, this guy appeared out of nowhere. So, okay, a lot of rambling to preface this whole story. But so when we arrived at the Silvergrass Festival, which had finished by that point, so entry was free because the grass wasn't the prettiest. Like it wasn't at its peak; it was kind of dying by that point. We had gone to the bathroom. As you walk in, there is a convenience store and places to sit, and you can get like snacks and stuff like that, and look at the beautiful view. The bathrooms there was packed, and I was like, yeah, no, I am not waiting 6,000 years in order to go to the bathroom. I'm sure there's more than one bathroom here, so I'm going to walk down. So Simon went to the bathroom because obviously men's line, shorter. And he came back. And so then I was like, well, I really need to go bathroom, so let's just keep walking this way. And I'm sure I'm going to find another bathroom that doesn't have a million people waiting. Literally the next bathroom, it was just me and one other woman that went. So it was not packed at all. So went to the bathroom, don't need to know any details about that, and came out. And Simon had sort of, when you walk along, bathrooms here, walk towards the view, there was some really nice like little areas underneath the trees, and you could sit, and there was a group of harabujis, which is, grandpas, just sitting under the tree. I think they were playing some sort of like old-timey game. And they were just chilling, hanging out. And I came over to Simon, and, we were just gathering our things. We had bought water, so we were just trying to fix all our stuff before we set off and like started to look around again. And it pains me that I didn't get this on camera, because I really would have liked to rewind and properly try to listen to what he said. But he came over and appeared out of nowhere, mind you. So Simon's sort of sitting down, I'm standing, and this Harabuji just appears out of nowhere here. Like, I didn't even see him walk over. And mind you, like, they were in my line of vision, so I don't even know. Anyway, appeared out of nowhere, gave Simon like 2 or 3, I think it was 2, little sesame cookies. And the words that I remember, and let me preface this by saying, I could have missed part of what he was saying and only had tuned in as he was saying the rest of this. So he could have actually said something a bit different, but the words that I heard were 큰 예쁜 여자, and which is big pretty woman. And I could have missed out on him saying 키큰, which is tall, but I only heard 큰, which is the adjective for big or large. And I know I'm not the skinniest person in the world, and added to the fact that I'm tall, there's a lot of me, but I was not mentally prepared to hear those comments the first day. And I was trying to focus on just the words, 예쁜, which is pretty, and like, I didn't hear the rest of what he said. Plus my vocabulary definitely needs work. I need to memorize a lot more vocabulary. But with everything surrounding the conversation, it just seemed like he was giving them to Simon and saying, here, you need to get bigger and stronger because you have a big, pretty woman. And while that might not seem rude, or that like invasive or anything like that, just with all my complexities and self-conscious feelings about my body and everything surrounding that, I could not focus for the rest of the day. And it sucks being in your, I really didn't want to cry in this video. It just sucks being in your 30s and still feeling like words have power over you. I really didn't want to cry. But, and I don't hate that Haramoji at all. Like, I think in the essence he was trying to be like just welcoming and nice in his own way. And and like I said, I could have completely just missed the part where he said kicken, and only sort of tuned in properly at the kun part. But I it it just made me feel so I don't know if disappointed is the word. I know it's not like I was disappointed in him or in Korea or anything like that. Disappointed in myself. Um because even before going to Korea, I really tried to be at a place where I was happy with my body and my size. But obviously, your body's not going to listen to what you have to tell it most of the time. And with all my medical things, it makes it a lot harder for me to lose weight. So it has been an uphill battle to get my health and my physicality to where I'm sort of feeling like I'm achieving something. So yeah, it's been yeah, so in my head I was because that moment made me feel like if I was skinnier, if I had worked harder, if my body had actually listened to me and I could not stand out in that way, people would just accept me more. And it sucks to always feel like you slide back into those thoughts, but it is really hard when some random man comes up to you and calls you a big, pretty woman. Again, I definitely missed a lot of words in what he was saying, and but the things that I did hear, unfortunately, was that. And that sort of set a precedent for the entire trip. I felt, whilst I still had so much fun in Korea, I had so many interactions with some amazing people. And, 95% of our trip was incredible. But hearing that on literally the first full day made me super self-conscious the rest of the trip. It doesn't help that a lot of Koreans stare anyway at foreigners. Mind you, like, this is like the younger generation. Anyone from like, I want to say 40 down doesn't do this. It is just older people and the older generation, but they stare and they stare intently. Like, if you stared back, they would just keep staring and they would not break eye contact. Like, that is how intense it is. And you don't know what they're thinking. They could be thinking, oh, more foreigners here. Ew, go back to where you came from. Or they could be thinking, oh, it's really cool that we have more foreigners. Like that, you just don't know what's going through their head, and you hear horror stories about people that travel to Korea and have like full on attacks on them from, you know, old old people. Like that woman that got kicked. Like, she was minding her own business shopping, and this ajumma literally walked up and kicked her in the back, and she fell over, and she just stuff like that where you're just like, why? So yeah, it just made me super self-conscious for the rest of the trip. So every person that stared, every whisper that you sort of heard made me super self-conscious. And I would not wear this in Korea unless I was like feeling myself and really like fit and had like muscles to show off and stuff like that. Like, this is not how I dressed. I was very conservative whilst I was there. I didn't show my arms or chest or anything. Which you would probably see in some of the footage, especially with the vlogs to come. But yeah, so it was very disheartening to feel that way. And I'm not saying that I blame them. It's disheartening to me because my mental space isn't where I wished it would be. It's disheartening to me because I thought I would be more healed to go through something like that. And it's clear it's not, that it still really affects me. And I'm still going through my therapy sessions and stuff like that to try to break that cycle of thinking. But it is really hard, especially when you've spent most of your life feeling like this. But yeah, so um whenever I'm in situations like that, when people come up, especially obviously it's in a different language, so that's not my primary thought language. I don't know what to do. So I kind of just smiled and said, 감사합니다. But yeah, and he then just toddled off back to his friends, and then I could hear them talking about me. And, you know, whilst they were saying like, oh, yappen 여자, blah, 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 they were saying some other stuff that I couldn't quite hear. Just the fact that they were still talking about me in earshot and I could understand some of what they were saying, whilst it was positive, I just wish my Korean was good enough that I could have understood everything fully, because then maybe it would have made me feel a bit better if I could understand everything. And that way I wouldn't just have focused on the words that hurt me. Sorry, I'm still sick. But yeah, so that was my experience, and it anyone who doesn't have these sort of complexes and fears wouldn't understand, because it's one thing being discriminated about with your race or your whatever it might be. Sorry, I'm like leaking. To be talked about, in my head it was negatively. In reality, it could have been quite positive. It makes you feel unworthy, because for the most part, it is something you can change about yourself quite easily. And I say that very, very loosely because it has not been easy for me. But yeah, it definitely made me super self-conscious for the rest of the trip. And it's hard because when you're in a subway and, for most part, most people know that Korea has an aging population. So there is a lot of older people. And when they're on mass staring, it can be very uncomfortable, and I try to ignore it. But when I had comments like that, and now being intently stared at and whispers and stuff like that happening, it just makes you feel very like I just wanted to disappear. Like if I could have shrunk down and become this small, I would choose to. Like, that was my feeling. Like, if I could just shrink down right now and then Simon could put me in his backpack, that would be great. But unfortunately, that's not in the realm of possibility. But yeah, so that was what happened at that point, and I feel like I needed to jump in here and explain that verbally and with me being here. Also ignore the mess in my I just realized how messy it looks in my room. Okay, so it's about that. Um but yeah, I feel like I needed to jump in here and speak about it because there is a lot to preface. Instead of just like saying the experience I had, there's a lot of backtracking and um information you would need to know where my head is and where I am in my life to understand how I would feel a little bit. Um but yeah, so that was the and like in my head I'm just like, why on the first day? Like literally, we had just arrived and I already have some Harubaji coming up and saying stuff. Like it just yeah. Simon really tried to, but he could tell my brain was elsewhere. Um I tried to not really tell him about that it affected me so much, because I don't like him worrying about things like that, and it's really hard to. Sorry, I need to. eh. Yeah, it's just really hard to explain it still. I wish I was mentally more healed enough to go through that. I wish I was more fluent in Korean. I wish there were so many things that I wished of myself in that moment. But on the positive side, like I said before, I had so many amazing interactions with Koreans and being able to speak not fluently, but enough Korean to converse with, cafe owners and restaurant owners. But yeah, so we had so many incredible interactions with Koreans. It was just those little things. And I will be doing some videos on my experience. Like I think I said that at the start of this. Um, the good, the bad, the shocking. I don't know if I could say that, but yeah. But I just wanted to jump in here and let you guys know that experience because I feel like I needed to properly talk about it. And I couldn't just do captions because that would have just been a lot. But yes, so anyway, I can just jump back into the vlog now. I don't know how to end this bit because it's a bit awkward. How do we get back into the vlog? Yeah, so I guess we'll just go back to past Tracy and Simon, who is having a ball in Seoul. So